3 young boys murdered in cold blood.
It appeared that they had been sexually mutilated.
Is it your opinion that these crimes were motivated by occult beliefs?
Yes.
I gotta tell you, Leon, absolutely probably nothing gets to me more than like things in films and television where someone is unjustly accused of something big.
Yeah.
I had an experience when I was in private school where some dude vandalized the whole cafeteria, and because my roommate and I had gone to sleep early on a weekend night that night on dorm, when I woke up, everyone was pointing fingers at me because we didn't see where you were last night. I went through months of everyone in the school having to do chores and everything and all hating me because they thought it's all your fault if you just admit you did it. I didn't do it.
Yeah.
Finally, the guy in question did, in fact, admit that he did it. And the school, rather than admit their embarrassment after publicly, accusing me themselves, just kind of slunk off and said, well, you can get a passing grade for the year and we won't charge you for the whole year.
What?
Yeah, just leave. They were like, just don't come back.
Oh, they made you leave?
Yeah, they didn't make me. They couldn't do that, but it was one of those
oh, you don't have to finish. We'll just
and I was
you.
and you know what? Fuck those people.
Yeah.
I was like, fuck every last one of those people. It's like even some of my closest friends were like, come on, man, you did it. I'm like, I didn't do it.
You really find out what assholes people can be when it comes to something like that.
But not anywhere near as much as these 3 kids in Memphis, Jesse Miskelly, Damian Eccles, and Jason Baldwin. These 3 kids, they've been in prison for more than 18 years because of a 1993 crime where basically a couple kids were found they had been hogtied and murdered horribly.
It was
abused.
3 or 4 kids.
Was it 3 or 4? I want to say it was just 2. But anyway, that's terrible. It's been like a month since we've seen this movie.
I know.
Although even I should know it better than now because this film, West of Memphis, is the first theatrical release documentary version of the story that a lot of people probably already heard of that took place, that was documented at length in the HBO documentary films Paradise Lost, of which there have been 3. The most recent of which just came out last year.
I'm curious because this all takes place where? Arkansas?
Memphis.
Yeah, that's right. Of course, the Memphis 3. And, West Memphis. And, I don't get where the Paradise comes in. Cause that place is, Three Tooth Central.
Yeah, it's just lost.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, the more they show the town, the more I go, being in prison doesn't seem like it's all that much different than being out.
Well, these poor kids, I mean, they were the freaks. They were the ones with long hair who listened to heavy metal music and drew Slayer symbols in their books in a little shitty town like that.
Yeah.
And what happens when there's a murder and the town is in a furor? No one can figure out who did it. Everyone's furious. Why not use Satanism as your excuse?
Yes, find someone to blame. And once again, I always say this. People get sick of me saying it, but cops aren't so much interested in justice as they are finding a suspect.
Yeah.
Making sure somebody gets convicted. Matter of fact, let me not put it on cops. The whole legal system. It's all about punishment. It's all about accusing somebody, finding somebody guilty, and punishing them. Getting to the truth. I mean, we're just now getting to the point where you're going okay, fine, we'll use DNA evidence. God, it used to be so much easier before. And here in a little shitty town, that's exactly what's going to happen. And if the prosecutor and people got to make up lies and get people to lie on the stand about you, well, so what?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they'll do anything to the point that even 18 years later, when there's just a mountain of evidence for their innocence
and a clear suspect.
They're still dragging their feet and still going, well, I don't think this adds up to, you know what? I think it's time we put some cops in jail for 18 years. I mean, there's no justice in a system that has no recourse for turning back around and punishing the people who are breaking the law, who are on the side of the law for situations like that. Sure, if a cop shoots some guy when he's not supposed to and knows it, but what about a prosecutor who absolutely refuses to look at mountains of evidence because he just doesn't want to look bad?
Oh, yeah. The whole thing, don't want to look bad, don't want to apologize, don't want to throw suspicion onto the fact that other people have been locked up, wrongly. Watching this is, it's painful. I've missed all the other documentaries.
Yeah, I've seen all 3.
I would hear things about what it was about, but I never watched it. But, I feel like if you watch this movie, you probably don't need to watch the other ones.
And
honestly, it's very comprehensive.
Yeah, honestly, you don't. This is a anthology, basically, of taking, a real, like, abridged version of the stories from those films, which were, as they were being filmed, new evidence was being discovered, things were changing in the case, different suspects were being investigated by the filmmakers and by independent investigators. I mean, you watched that whole case evolve as it went along, even though from the first film, it seemed very clear these kids did not do this.
Yeah.
This movie takes all that stuff, not only congeals it down to one film that really focuses on one suspect that only really came up in the third film, that seems like a no-brainer he did it.
Right.
Like, it's just like, come on, you don't even need a trial for this guy. He's so certainly the guy who did it. And
right.
they're still not even investigating the guy.
Yeah.
But it also does it in such an artful and careful way. Watching it was, like I said, as opposed to the three HBO films, which are very much more like TV documentaries. I mean, they're very good, but they just don't have that same sense of craft. This really does. It uses cinematography. It plays the whole thing out so well. You really feel like you're just watching a really intense murder mystery. And it's smart about withholding information until it's time in the context of telling you a story to give it to you.
Yeah, no, I can say that normally, because it felt longer than most documentaries did, and not long like, will this ever go off? But, it's just full. And normally with a documentary, I have about an hour's worth of patience. And I feel like after that, they're spinning their wheels.
Yeah.
And this, I was fascinated the whole time.
Well, you're angry when you watch it. It makes you, it's interesting that at first, for the first 20 minutes, it sells you that you're watching a case about these three kids having murdered some other kids.
Right.
Like there's no, like at first it's like it wants you to feel the outrage that everyone in this town felt. Like, look, and can you believe these little freaks murdered these guys? At first it gets you there, and then it undercuts that and goes, oh, but wait.
Well, and a big part of that is the fact that, Damien Eccles, is it Damien?
Damien Eccles, yeah.
Yeah, Eccles.
Unfortunately named Damien Eccles.
I know. Yes, he got that unfortunate name. He seems to be like the leader or the smart one, of the group. And every time they cut to him, he's just taking it like a joke, like, whatever, man.
Yeah, he's in shock. Didn't believe it.
Yeah. And, it's one of those things where he even admits, but, later when he's getting out, he's like, yeah, I was kind of a smart ass and I probably brought it on myself. So watch him in the beginning, you're kind of like, all right, I know he's supposed to be innocent, but why is he acting like this? But the longer it went on, it's like, well, it doesn't matter. They really have so little evidence.
Yeah.
This should not be happening at all.
And Damien is kind of the star of the film. Certainly the one of the three kids who was not only their leader of that little friends group, but the only really wildly intelligent one.
Yeah.
And as he gets older in prison, you're like, this kid is super smart.
Right.
I mean, like, he's got his shit together. He's very philosophical and peaceful.
A couple of days ago, someone sent me the new Stephen King book. I started reading his books when I was probably 10 or 11 years old. People have always undervalued him. They look at him as this hack writer who turns out horror novels. In all of his books, at the end, he always addresses the reader. He thanks you for going on this voyage with him, and so I wanted to read it to you. All right, I think we've been down here in the dark long enough. There's a whole other world upstairs. Take my hand, constant reader, and I'll be happy to lead you back into the sunshine. I'm happy to go there because I believe most people are essentially good. I know that I am. It's you I'm not entirely sure of.
I mean, he's a nice kid.
Yeah.
Well, now he's a nice adult.
He's a grown-ass man now.
But, lots of interesting things happened to him during this time. Watching even, like, some of the transition of the townspeople, like, even some of the parents of the kids as they go from furious anger to doubt to, like, anger again that, these are clearly not these kids are now the victims, just more victims in this case. And why aren't you spending any time looking for the real people? Really, the finger that gets pointed here is at the justice system.
Oh, absolutely.
And which is highly flawed, to say the least. There's no end of films that discuss this sort of thing, but I think none of them I've seen any time clear do it quite so eloquently and, hard to argue with as this film that really says, is any system worth protecting so much when it can do something like this to innocent children?
Yeah. You see how callous everybody is about it. And the fact that they don't want to hear new evidence. It's like, no, that's not, It's like, hey man, you could at least listen or pretend to listen. A big thing, pushing this along, I don't know how involved he was in the other movies.
Yeah, the director, Peter Jackson.
Yeah, it just sounds like once he saw this and got outraged and got involved, it really got things rolling because he just started financing, all the investigations and the retrials.
Yeah, he and his wife, basically just called, the woman who ended up marrying Damon Eccles in jail and said, we want to help. Like, what do you need? Well, whatever you need. Him and Fran Walsh both were like, we'll give you, we've seen this case and we know
We just made Lord of the Rings. We got lots of money.
We got lots of money to blow. We're willing to help you with some of this money.
We'll get Gandalf over there. You need Gandalf?
And Jackson himself comes on for several key moments to show that this is a guy who was, I mean, they weren't marketing at all the fact that Jackson, was involved in this.
Oh, not even, that's why I mentioned it, because you don't know that unless you read the credits.
Among other people, Eddie Vedder was really interested in that and is involved in the making of this film and has several moments in here. I forget which one of the Dixie Chicks, one of them.
Natalie Maines.
Natalie Maines. And these people, not only, did their thing, wrote songs, went out in public to support them, that sort of thing, but even were just, well past that point, we're just showing up at all the retrial cases and every little thing just to be part of it in any way, to lend just their presence.
Yeah, just to say hey, this is not happening in the dark. We're making it so there's a spotlight on it.
What you have is a film that really runs you through the gamut of emotions.
Oh yeah.
And honestly, I think this is one of the best documentaries I've seen, in the last couple of years, really. I mean, as much as everyone raves about The Imposter and stuff, which was terrific, this is one of those ones that, it's not, even though there are mechanics to the way it's put together that are very well done, the story sells itself.
Yeah, it is a fascinating story. It's gripping. It's sad. I mean, you don't come away from it feeling good at all, but it's real. You need to know about it. And the thing that really got to me, it's like you watch how these kids, go through all this and, them coming out of it and just trying to, put their lives together after that. And they come out of it better than I imagined I would.
Yeah.
But it really, what haunted me was wow, what about all the other people in prison there who don't have Peter Jackson coming to their aid, who don't have Eddie Vedder who sings for them.
Making their case prominent that. You're right, yeah. And lots of people who don't, there isn't as much evidence to save them floating around out there. I mean, even with the really, it'll make you so mad. Just mountains of evidence, both for these kids' innocence and for someone else's guilt, that they stayed in jail for that long.
Yeah, 18 years?
I mean, that's...
And only to not even get all right, sorry, we fucked up.
Yeah. Believe me, everyone knows now that they have been released, but when you find out the details, the conditions, you'll be like, you have got to be fucking kidding me.
Yeah. And I was cheering on the one guy who was like, no, fuck it, I'm not taking that.
Yeah.
I mean, and he has to cave. It's like, man, it sucks.
Yeah. Well, what are you going to do? There's two other people involved too. But either way, like I said, I couldn't recommend this documentary more. As much as in the past I've talked about Paradise Lost and how good they are, you can really kind of skip those unless you really, really, really want to know every tiny little detail. And those are good, but this is just a 2-hour summing up of absolutely everything that you need to know that's better made than those other films and will indeed make you should probably go see it with someone and go have lunch afterwards so you can get mad and scream for the heavens for a while. But I give it absolutely a really high full price.
I'm right there with you. It's one of the best documentaries I've ever seen. I'm having trouble thinking of something that I've seen that was better. And yeah, as far as watching the other, the other, HBO documentaries, I don't know what details those could give me that this didn't, or that I actually want to see. I mean, it's very comprehensive, a very high full price.
What's funny is so 4 movies have been made about these kids and their case, and now a 5th. Adam McGoyan is directing a dramatization fictionalized version that comes out this year called Devil's Knot. You're like, oh my God. You're like, all we have to do, Leon, is not kill someone, but convince everyone that we did.
That might be fine for you.
I think this is great. I see the key to stardom in our 60s.
Tell you what, you do that and then come back and tell me how it works out.
I was just a big liar. And I really was.
You're dealing with a horrendous crime. It warps their judgment.
There's careers at stake.
The option to reopen the case was presented to him, and he went, no, we found them guilty, we're done.
We don't believe the people of Arkansas are going to be satisfied until there is a new trial.
Not only is the state getting away with it, but the person who killed those 3 kids is still out there walking on the street.